Thursday, we'll have temperatures in the mid-90s under sunny skies. Expect a chance of thunderstorms on Thursday and Friday.
Welcome back. It's time for your tropical update, and we begin by taking a look at what's happened over history for this time of the year. Between 1886 and 2001, for the dates of July 1st through July 20th, we've had 21 named storms, and they have generally developed across parts of the Atlantic and also in parts of the Caribbean. As we take a look here at the Atlantic Basin, well, we have a couple different features to point out to you: a tropical wave and also our first tropical depression, which formed yesterday just off of the Carolina coast. Tropical depression number 1, currently positioned at 185 miles to east-northeast of Cape Hatteras with winds of 35 miles an hour, and it's moving to the east-northeast at 18. Estimated pressures at 29.71 inches. Here's a look at tropical depression number 1. The main convection is to the east of the center. It is potentially going to be upgraded to a tropical storm for later on today, and that would make it the first tropical storm of the season. Its name would become Arthur, and then it's expected to become extratropical within the next 36 hours. Shouldn't be a problem to land. Across parts of Puerto Rico and through the Virgin Islands, we do have a tropical wave that's pushing its way through right now, but really not producing any rainfall to the San Juan area this morning. Out in the Eastern Pacific here, or Western Pacific, excuse me, we're looking at Tropical Storm Christina. Winds at 40 miles an hour, moving to the northwest at 7. Really not a lot left of Christina. It's moving into some cooler water. The other story is over in the Western Pacific here, and we are looking at Typhoon Ha Long, which is working its way towards mainland Japan. We also have a second typhoon that is also affecting areas, and that is Tropical Storm, or Typhoon Function. Now taking a look at the lower 48, here's Bob with your storm conditions.
Let's see where the thunderstorm forecast exists across the country, and we have a chance of strong storms in the west with disturbances on the western periphery of an upper level high, which has been keeping us hot. So isolated storms in the Intermountain West, also some storms with an old boundary across the south and with a backdoor front coming into the New England area. You can see the storms now riding from south to north on the western side of our upper level ridge. Flooding rain still going on in southern Texas, and you can see the rains across northern New England. But starting off in the south, look at the lightning right now across southeastern Texas, including the greater Houston area, where we're under a flash flood watch, including much of the rest of southern Texas, where the rains are still coming down, especially around San Antonio and to the east of San Antonio and points southward. So you want to stay off the flooded roads this morning. So that's a check of what's going on from coast to coast storm-wise. And now with your weekend outlook, here's Melissa.
And of course, we just finished one weekend, looking forward to the next. And coming next Saturday, it looks like we'll be dealing with scattered showers and thunderstorms from the nation's midsection to the Ohio River Valley in the mid-Atlantic states and even across parts of the southeastern U.S. Sunday still looks like we could be dealing with an active weather day with scattered showers and thunderstorms across the northeast. Temperatures cool in the northeast, though, 70s and 80s. Hot, though, across the deep south. Bob?
Extreme heat or thunderstorms can interfere with your travel plans or outdoor activities. The next hour of First Outlook will outline what's in store for your day. Beginning at 6:01, we'll take you across the country, breaking down the regions that will be stormy or hot, but also giving the thumbs up on some areas where conditions will be mild. Western wildfires continue to force families from their homes. At 6:21, a look at the latest fire near a major city in Nevada. And we have the first tropical depression of the Atlantic hurricane season. Where is it headed? You can get the latest in the next tropical update at 6:50.
We'll be right back.
First Outlook is sponsored by Charles Schwab. There's never been a better time for Charles Schwab.
Our son asked our advice about life insurance recently. I told him when we got married, we started our insurance coverage with Globe Life.
Only cost $1 to start. Seemed like a good value at the time.
A lot has changed over the years, but not the cost to start a Globe Life policy. It's still only $1.
That was a good value back then, and an even better value today. And everything is handled through the mail or over the internet.
Call this toll-free number right now to receive everything you need to apply for coverage. Or log on to globeontheweb.com.
Applying for coverage is really easy. No physical exams, just answer a few basic health questions.
Globe makes buying life insurance easy. Maybe that's why millions of people have Globe policies.
Call Globe today.
For complete information and applications, log on to globeontheweb.com or call Globe Life today at 1-800-480-1400. That's 1-800-480-1400.
How much hair did you lose overnight? Over 31 million women in America suffer from hair loss.
There's nothing worse than being a woman and feeling like you're losing all your hair. I had such beautiful hair, and to see my hair thinning and patches of my hair missing, it really upset me.
Now there's a major advancement for this distressing condition. More Hair from University Medical is a non-drug breakthrough.
Our first tropical storm of the season out in the Atlantic, Tropical Storm Arthur. Here's the coordinates. If you're tracking this at home, it's 36.4 degrees north, 69.7 degrees west, or about 340 miles east-northeast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. Top winds are now at 50 miles an hour. The movement has increased. The last advisory movement was to the east-northeast at 18 miles an hour. Now it's increased to 23 miles an hour. Pressure now at 29.56. And that continues to hold this at this time. And the forecast for Arthur, we'll take a look at the visible satellite picture across the area, showing you the latest. The forecast continues to take the storm up to the east and northeast, put you in perspective of where we are. And the far corner of your screen, you see the Outer Banks of North Carolina, the National Seashore, heading out toward Nags Head, also to the north, Chesapeake Bay, Virginia, and extending around the coastline of the eastern U.S. The storm continues to move fairly quickly now, 23 miles an hour again. Latest satellite pictures, though, in the last few hours put this enhancement on here and show you the convection around the storm. Continues to be the main convection on the north and east quadrant of the storm, and also down on the southern side. We're also getting quite a bit of wind across the top of the storm, but winds again have increased to 50 miles an hour. Earlier today we're at 35 miles an hour when it was just a tropical depression, but now a tropical storm, Tropical Storm Arthur. Broader view of the Atlantic elsewhere, pretty quiet conditions here in the Caribbean. If you have a vacation plan next few days, looking good for your cruise. Down to the south along the intertropical convergence zone, no real problems here as things are really quiet. Now as we go later in the hurricane season, we'll be focusing more of our attention into this part of the world off the coast of Africa. That's where we typically see storms form and then make their way across the Atlantic, past the islands, and then into the Caribbean, and eventually in some cases back into the Gulf of Mexico. Speaking of the Gulf, quiet conditions along the eastern Gulf right now. Some convection flaring up just north along the Bay of Campeche, also just off the coast of Texas. And in Texas, of course, dealing with the flooding rains. More on that in just a moment. But you can see in the last 12 hours, the satellite review showing the convection here down into the Bay of Campeche, just off the coast of Cancun, extending back into Old Mexico. Back into the eastern Pacific, we're dealing with Christina still. Here's the latest on Tropical Depression Christina as of the 8 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time Advisory, 19.1 degrees north, 119.9 degrees west. Christina is 1,320 miles west-northwest of Acapulco right now. Winds are down to 35, movement to the northwest at 12. Good news is here, the storm continues to push out to sea off to the northwest at 12 miles an hour. So no real concern except for shipping interest and also for the mariners as well. Here's what's going on back into the western Pacific, though. Some real problems as we take a look at some video coming out of that part of the world with the Typhoon Halong continues in that area. As we take a look at the video showing you the showers that's led to flooding across the area. 3 people were injured and left thousands without power. The typhoon also caused the cancellation of dozens of flights and passenger service on the ferry to the island as well. Halong could impact Tokyo by Tuesday. Here's a look at the satellite review across this part of the world. As you can see, to put you in perspective, here's Japan and Tokyo to the north as the storm continues to race off to the north. Something to keep an eye on. Of course, we'll be hearing more as news reports out of this area tomorrow as it could affect the Tokyo area. Back here stateside, though, our main concern is the flooding rains in Texas. Numerous counties under flash flood warnings. You've already picked up anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain this morning. More rain expected throughout the afternoon. That's why the National Weather Service has prompted these flash flood watches to continue all the way from Houston back out to the west, down just to the north of Brownsville, Texas. Also, the possibility of thunderstorms persist into the northeast today into New England with a cold front sliding through. Some of those could be severe by the afternoon with some strong gusty winds and also some small hail. Possibly 2 across eastern Montana. Some isolated storms could become severe from Billings back along Interstate 90, pushing toward Bozeman, and also heading back into the mountains of western Montana, and just a scattering of strong thunderstorms with the daytime afternoon heating that comes along the coast of Florida, all the way into the central portions of the state and back in the southwest as well. Putting it all back together, giving your Monday evening forecast, what you need to expect for tonight. Well, high pressure stays in control across the middle part of the nation. It will be warm, but it will be dry from St. Louis back to Chicago, also Indianapolis and Cincinnati. Here's our tropical storm well off the coast. Cold front in the northeast, providing the possibility again of some severe weather here. And of course, we'll keep our eye on Texas as we continue to monitor the possibility of more flooding throughout the afternoon. Weather centers after your local forecast next.
Escape from dry, heat-damaged hair with Thermosilk Conditioner. It works with your hair dryer to help lock in moisture and turn your hair into silk. Thermosilk.
Your skin's spending a lot more time in the sun today than you think, and it doesn't take much for the sun's rays to dry out and damage your skin. Fortunately, Lubriderm, the name that means moisture,
some stormy and unusually hot weather around the nation. We'll talk about that in just a minute on Storm Watch after we examine the tropics. Now, all of a sudden, we had a development, and within about 12 or 18 hours, a disturbance on the Atlantic coast became our first Atlantic depression of the season, and then the first tropical storm of the Atlantic season, Arthur, moving its way rapidly into the open Atlantic. But no big threat for other developments in the Caribbean, the Gulf, or even the deep tropics all the way out to Africa, although we do have some tropical waves moving through, an organized cloud area moving past the Cape Verde Islands, but no deep convection. That would be the bright colored clouds that go well up into the atmosphere there. And a little bit further westward in the direction of the windwards, a weak wave coming in, some unsettled weather over the Caribbean that we'll take a look at too. But Arthur is racing its way on to the east-northeast at about 29 miles an hour forward motion, 60-mile-an-hour top winds on this one, south-southwest of Sable Island in Nova Scotia. That would be right about here. This little dot is Sable Island. So it's headed in that general direction, but it looks like it's going to miss Nova Scotia altogether. Now, this is the convection that we see associated with our tropical storm, but the actual center of it, you could see the lower clouds, or sort of a more subtle cloud area rotating, separated from the convection or the high top intense rain showers. So it's not a healthy sign for the storm. It's becoming extra tropical, and it will become totally extra tropical within about 18 to 24 hours, but still maintain some of those 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. The tip of Nova Scotia around Yarmouth right there, so it is out over the open water getting into some cooler water, so it really can't maintain itself as a tropical entity much longer with that cooler water. Another shot of the coast showing Nova Scotia and then Newfoundland, and it looks like it'll curve around an upper level trough and start curving to the left, and it could even nick places like St. John's, Newfoundland, or Cape Race, Newfoundland over the next couple of days with some 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts and pretty rough seas, so definitely a threat to the shipping lanes. That's Arthur, our first development of the season in the Atlantic. Meanwhile, you've been getting hammered with rain around South Texas and Houston the last few days. Monday, not as heavy as over the weekend, but just an upper-level trough, not really a tropical development. Some showers all the way down along the coast toward Veracruz, Mexico. This little turn is tumbling toward the Yucatan. That's an upper-level low that has some showers connected with it. The Caribbean, we're looking at no threat for development, maybe a tropical wave interacting with that upper low, picking up the pace of the showers around Honduras, but not a development. Meanwhile, we have Christina, which was a named tropical storm, ran into some problems in development, and now it's barely a tropical depression, moving northwest at 7 miles an hour, well off the Mexican coast. And here, there's nothing bright on the satellite pictures. A little bit of a flare-up of some heavier rain on the west side. There's your circulation. It should be downgraded and advisories discontinued pretty soon. But there are other flare-ups to the southwest of Acapulco, which could develop in the next few days. We'll keep an eye on that for you. Meanwhile, Christina's proximity to Mexico and out toward the Hawaiian Islands, just an average weather pattern with the windward parts of the islands getting a little more rain than the leeward. Meanwhile, we had all along that hammered the islands of Okinawa right about here with winds of over 100 miles an hour, just sideswiping Honshu, the big island of Japan, as it seems to gain organization right now, moving out to sea, maybe nicking it with some 50 to 60 mile an hour winds and high seas, but that's about it. Nothing much worse than that. And further out, we're seeing a development that could be affecting the Philippines in a couple of days. Further out than that, approaching Wake Island, we have another typhoon called Fengshen, and that one is 120, gusting to close to 150 miles right now. That's off this picture out near the date line, but that could be interacting with Wake Island in the next day or so. And we do have some U.S. presence on Wake Island, so we'll have to watch that. Meanwhile, it's the heat that's your problem in South Dakota, Montana, Nebraska, Wyoming. The heat up over 100, even from North Dakota at Bismarck down in that direction towards South Dakota and Nebraska. We'll see Tuesday weather getting up to 100 in Rapid City, so the heat's still a big problem there, with heat indices feeling like over 100 in that area. Meanwhile, the showers picking up in the southwest, still some showery areas during the daytime hours, and that'll continue into Tuesday. Meanwhile, in the northeast, we had some pretty intense storms that dropped hail, damaging winds in Maine. A little bit of a cool down in New England, but still pretty hot in the middle Atlantic.
Every garden hose ends up in the same way, tangled, trampled, or torn. Hi, I'm Pat Murphy-Stark for the Invention Channel, here to show you a revolutionary new garden hose. It's the new Roll-A-Hose, the compact, lightweight garden hose that rolls up to store on its own reel. Look, ordinary garden hoses are rigid and heavy. It's a job to store them. But watch this. Roll-A-Hose lays completely flat, just like the hose from a fire truck. But when you turn on the faucet, the water flows freely. It's flexible, so it rolls up neatly, completely. It's so lightweight, anyone can do it in minutes. Dragging that heavy hose from faucet to faucet is a dirty job. But Roll-A-Hose is so lightweight, moving it is no problem. Move it to water your plants out on the patio. Move it to clean the pool area, your deck, or your porch. Move it to wash your car. Then when you're done, store it in the trunk. It's so easy to move, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Roll-A-Hose.